Thanks, Joe. Well, our first music guest, Thando Skwatsha, has recently announced the release of his debut album, Iimini Nentsuku. Well, led by his first single of the project that he entitled isaziso. Thando blends introspection and cultural homage with the use of his mother tongue, isiXhosa, and isiZulu. The project is also a story that he wrote about his ancestors and the need for to be heard at this point in his life. Well, Thando Skwatsha is in the studio with us this morning for a chat about his latest project. Thando, good morning. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
Good,
I'm doing really good.
Who is Thando and where does it come from?
Thando is a musician who is born and bred in Cape Town, South Africa.
When did this love for music start? When did this relationship start?
A very long time ago.
Yeah.
Honestly, since I was a very young child. Professionally, it started when I was 12. I was enrolled in the Jocksburg Boys Choir School, and that's really where I learned to master my musicianship skills.
At what point did you then decide, okay, I'm going to do this professionally, go into this direction and, take this as a career?
So like in high school, it became a conscious decision to be like, okay, let me do this music thing.
Let's talk about your sound. How would you describe your sound?
My sound is typically Afro-pop music. I have a very rich brass voice which blends in all genres quite nicely. I'm very fortunate to be able to have that. But focus now point is mainly Afro-pop music.
Yeah. And there's a little spirituality in your music. Talk to us about that and how you fuse that into your music.
I'm a person who prides myself on being connected with my inner child. And being connected with my inner child means that I know where I come from. Knowing where I come from involves my ancestors and my past, my family, etc., etc. So that's how it blends into the music, really. I incorporate it so well, like in terms of making sure that the picture I paint is an animated one so that listeners can be able to have their own image of what I'm trying to convey in the message.
Talk to us about how they speak to you through your music, your ancestors, that is, and where you come from.
Experience mostly. I draw from my experiences in childhood, growing up in my grandmother's house with lots of cousins, and then going out to play with my friends, and all of what I was either told, taught, or have learned while growing up as a child is now coming out in my music.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm really singing about.
Yeah. So we talked about some of the themes. What are some of the other subjects that you zoom in on in your music, and why are they worth, shining the spotlight on?
So I speak mostly of past love. I speak of hope. I sing of hope.
Right.
I really aim to inspire any listener who's listening to our music. Try and allow their imagination to run through my music and not really cover and tell a specific, like, hey, I'm saying this, but like there's also space for you to be able to incorporate your own ideology in it.
Speak to us about the decision to write in isiXhosa and isiZulu. You could have easily gone into English. Because it's the easy way. But you've decided to stick to your roots.
Actually, it was easier to write in my mother tongue than it was in English. And that's something that I discovered upon, but my music journey is quite an interesting one for me as the artist. Things just happen in the studio. It's like I go into the studio, I aim to make music, yes, but I didn't go into the studio aiming to make vernacular music such as now. I was in the studio and I wanted to make something new, something fresh, and I heard a reference and I was like, I want to make something like this. And so that's how it came about. And that's how now we have Iimini Nentsuku.
Right. Talk to us about the single. What is it about?
Isaziso is a single that I talk about with mainly family. In it, and how I grew up, and my mom and my dad, and the lessons they've taught me, and things I've either agreed with or not agreed with in the song. And it's just the journey without, but also speaking about my upbringing and who I am as a person now, and the people I choose to hang around with, and why I choose to hang around those people.
Who's been there throughout this journey, apart from your parents? Who's been pushing you, throughout it to say, go for it? You're very good at this.
My manager and producer, Milan Rendell, is a very integral part of my music journey and my personal life in general, actually. That's really where we connected. 5 years ago we connected, and the rest, as they say, is history. So it's just been a roller coaster ride since then, and he's been there every single part, always pushing me and always encouraging me to do most.
And who did you work with on these two projects that we're talking about? And why were they the best people, to see through your creative process and what you're trying to do?
So I worked with Milan. I wrote all the songs myself.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, no features or anything like that. But really, it was just us in the studio writing the song, or I was writing the songs. And yeah, that's what it's been throughout the journey.
Were you under pressure, though, to say, okay, I want it to be perfect because this is, the way it's supposed to sound. This is how it sounds in my head, in the studio.
I always try to give something that is immaculate when producing something, but I was not under pressure. No, it was just a bit nerve-wracking since it was the first time doing this sort of thing. I can say, for me, it's like, oh my God, how is it going to be received? Am I saying the right things? Is this allowed to be said? Because sometimes when you say things vernacular, things can come off as rude or it's like something like that. So it was just like I was on alert, very high alert.
So who did you consult though with that to say, does this sound right? Am I saying it right?
I didn't consult anyone. I trusted my gut. I really did know. And I was really explaining this to also someone yesterday who was asking me a similar question. I was like, actually, I don't really write in only isiXhosa or only isiZulu. I incorporate my favorite phrases or lines to say in both languages, and then I produce them in my music, and it comes out like that.
Who would you say you draw inspiration from? When you hear this person and you're like, no man, this person is speaking to what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, so with my music currently, it's the likes of Vusinova, it's the likes of Nati Mankai. I draw from vocal acts of, Shikana, Loyiso, Naima K. It's really a long list. Those are just off the top of my head for now. Yeah.
And for now, what's the long-term plan or for the next 6 months, for instance, for your music? The
next 6 months, I'm currently going to be in studio next week, going back to Cape Town to create another one. But for now, it's a whole lot of these and just connecting on a personal level with my listeners.
Yeah. What did working on this project teach you about yourself and your craft? Every journey has its own little lessons there, and the ancestors will throw a little lesson there too.
They will. They will. I learned that if you understand my journey, you understand that I never really consider myself a songwriter because I always saw that there were people who are stronger than me in songwriting. So I really learned that I actually can start considering myself a songwriter after this project. Having written the 12 tracks by myself really taught me that I have some strengths in having something to say. I'm an articulate writer, and I think that is something to be proud of.
And how are you incorporating your education from Drakensberg Boys into now? Right now you can look at the lesson and say, okay, maybe that was a valuable lesson.
Yes. It's mostly the technique. I'm classically trained, so that really is like the basis of it all. It's a really good foundation. And the vocal melodies that I sing in the songs are also like inspired by what I was taught and how to sing specifically. That's how it's incorporated.
Who's your biggest critic?
Myself.
Yeah,
definitely me. I'm really hard on myself. But that's because I always strive to push myself even further.
Is there ever a time that you think you've pushed too far?
Sometimes. Sometimes there's unnecessary pressure that I put on myself, some overthinking. But I try to keep it healthy to make sure that it doesn't hinder any process or doesn't backfire in any way.
What do your parents think of the music?
They love it, thankfully. They love it. I was especially with the track isaziso, I was quite nervous because I say some things about my mom and my dad, and so I was like, I haven't played it to them. They're going to hear it with everyone else. So they really do love it. And I remember specifically asking my brother, like, did your parents listen to the song? Like, they did, they love it. I'm like, okay, I'm happy.
All right, so tell us about the 2 songs you're going to perform for us.
So this morning I'm performing 2 songs from my album, namely Thando and Ngiyasfela. Thando is a ballad I wrote about unrequited love, giving my love to someone who didn't love me back. Ngiyasfela is an upbeat love song, but I'm going to be performing it acoustically, which speaks really about my love for someone and how much I love that person. Directly translated meaning that I'll die for them.
But not the same person that didn't love you back, right?
It is the same person. It is the same person. It is the same person. Yeah, the album really takes you on a journey, and that's one thing that I'm really proud of. It allows you to just go up and down and feel the emotions, and
All right, I love that. Thando, thank you so much for spending the morning with us. We'll hear music from our first music guest, Thando Skwatsha, speaking to us about his debut project titled Iimini Nentsuku. All right, quick ad break. We're back after this. Stay with us.